abandon the courts, and that's not the only thing that who abandon the court, not just litigants, young lawyers who are also terrorized by judges. Many of them decide that they're not going to go into the courts anymore to harden themselves. They're not going to be advocates. They'd rather just disappear. And so the court, in fact, has signed its own death certificate in more ways than one, our judiciary. I'll leave you with that note.
Yes.
Sure. If you've got a question.
If you're saying that it's difficult to get Bahamians to get on the court, on the bench, because the bench has no respect, but so it seems to me you still have to have foreign law judges come. What about doing having something? Who mandates the length of the contract? Can you make a longer contract so you have institutional memory? These people come and they understand you're going to be here.
They will never develop institutional memory. It's an unnecessary burden. Most of the people, in fact, invariably the judges we bring here are judges who've already retired in other jurisdictions. They're already 65. And what it has led to in some instances is playing games. So that in one particular case I know of, and this is rather tragic, so I don't mean to make it funny, there was this Court of Appeal judge who's, I guess, who was able to convince the court that he was his service was so much needed that they had to find ways to get around the Constitution. Under the Constitution, a judge must admit office, a Court of Appeal judge, at the age of 68. Allowed 2 more years to 70. And lo and behold, they continue to find ways to extend that judge. Not once, not twice, 3 times. And then he was stricken. He was stricken. And he was supposed to have been involved in a case that I was in. And I felt badly about it too. And then there was another problem. His family, he was stricken here so that they had to then determine how and who was going to pay for moving him in an air ambulance out of the country. His family wanted him to go back to England, even though he was from Guyana. He wants to go to England. The government is saying, no, the best we can do is just get you into Fort Lauderdale. We'll pay for the ambulance for you to get to Fort Lauderdale, because he was rendered really immobile. Couldn't speak anything. So you get into these little embarrassing moments, and then suddenly they all started doing it. They started cheating, so that even though the Constitution mandates for the Court of Appeal 68, so that you can at maximum be given 2 years, but only for specific purposes laid down in the Constitution. Finishing off those matters which you started, and which you must then bring to an end, like completing judgment. Oh, you find them doing other things. You go there one day and they're sitting hearing new cases. All because in some instances they wanted to come within this 5-year period under a piece of legislation that affords them this pension, where they recover a huge percentage, and I think some 90% of what it is that they make. And so you find judges cheating. Cheating.
It's funny too that you mentioned that, because in the dialogue or the correspondence that is alleged to be written by Justice Lyons, he had mentioned this until he gets his mention. So,
well, no, and he was making a fair comment, because in one of the instances there was a case where a judge had made the mistake without crossing all the T's and dotting the I's of leaving the jurisdiction and having to rely on somebody locally to get his money for him. And he had to wait for more than a year. That's what Lyons was referring to, that yeah, they're so embarrassed, I'll get out of here, and they will seek to punish me by not paying me my money.
Mr. Glinton, if I may, as a senior member of the bar, what changes would you recommend or would like to see implemented in terms of introducing greater accountability or regulation of the legal fraternity with a view to increasing consumer protection?
Consumer protection?
Yes, in terms of...
Well, you have the legislation, you have consumer protection legislation. I've always been more concerned with quality control than consumer protection.
Consumer protection, sir, as it relates to acquiring or hiring an attorney, specifically in that regard.
Well, the market determines that. I mean, there's some of us, for example, who impose rules on ourselves. I have clients sometimes who might wish me to go into the magistrate's court. And I say no, because if I do that, I'm robbing a more junior lawyer from gaining some experience. And he's got to earn a living, or she's got to earn a living there too. And this, I've had a falling out with a very senior lawyer who insists, former Chief Justice, going into magistrate's court. And I told him it's disgusting. That is for where you cut your teeth. That is where you allow the younger lawyers to get their footing, to, you know, get to understand the system. You can't earn everything.
So what about complaint resolution as you relate?
Well, you have those. You have a system which works. Never mind which you read. It's rather selective in some instances where they seem to go after some people rather than others. But we've got many sacred cows in this country. I mean, sacred cows are not unknown in this place.
Well,